Hello, everyone. Welcome again to another Travel Tuesday. Today, we are going to talk about cruising without sight. So, we are going to focus on this unique aspect of accessible traveling. And this is mainly focused on individuals with low vision, as we usually do. So, cruising offers a distinctive travel experience for everyone, but it holds a particular advantage for those who have visual impairments because the consistency of the environment of a cruise ship provides a familiar and comforting setting, allowing passengers to explore the world while maintaining a sense of orientation. You travel around to different places, but your accommodation stays the same. So there is no need to start moving hotels, to figure out public transportation. I feel this is a perfect step up for a first trip or a first travel. And some people just really, really love cruising and keep using cruises for their trips, which is absolutely great. So a lot of cruises have a lot of accessibility for people with a disability, and then for people with vision loss, there is large print menus or even with braille and information as well. I've seen some cruises also state that there is trained staff on board, so I'm definitely curious about those frequent travelers, how that is. And some cruises also have their own apps. So I've also heard that a lot of them provide free Wi-Fi for people with a visual impairment, so you can just freely use the apps that you need to get around the cruise ship. So yeah, let's delve deeper into the world of accessible cruising. Let's explore some strategies, some insights, some inspirational stories from experienced travelers that we have. And we also have a couple of travel agents with us, and I'm very excited to also hear what they provide for people with a vision loss and how they book trips for everyone. But before we move on to our first speaker, I would quickly like to tell you more about our brand new ebook that we have. So the ebook is called Travel Beyond Sight, and it's a step-by-step guide to level up your self-esteem and grow your confidence in travel. So this ebook is about 15 pages long, and it will teach you how to take these first steps into travel when you have low vision. It's filled with challenges, inspiring content for you to reflect on. And this book is for everybody to download. I'm quickly going to drop a link in the comment section. Let me check this out here. And everybody can download this as you please. But when you've gone through the book and you bring a review, you add a review to us, then you are able to win a free coaching session. So a free travel coaching session with me. So definitely go check that out. I will make sure that there's a link here in the Zoom session and that there's a link on the Facebook page as well. So you can go and check that out. And who knows, maybe get the chance to do a free private travel coaching session with me. All right, let's move on. Our first speaker of today is Steve Cohen. He is a loyal member of the Vision Loss travel community, and he has been on many cruises. Gladly, he was happy to share his experiences with us. So I would say, Steve, feel free to introduce yourself and tell us more about your travels.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay. And by the way, your face is kind of dark. Your lighting is not great right now for you. So you might want to work on that, do something with that. So I'm Steve Cohen. I'm 68 years old. I am, just for those who can't see me, I'm a Caucasian male with brown graying hair with a green shirt on. I live in Wilmington, Delaware, which is just south of Philadelphia on the East Coast of the United States. And I'm married with my wife, Cindy, and I've got two adult sons who are 41 and 45 years old who live nearby, and I have three grandkids that I enjoy a lot. My journey in traveling first is that I've always been a traveler since I was 11 years old, 57 years ago. And both personally vacation as well as business travel. I've traveled to all 50 United States. I've traveled to all the regions of the world, and many times throughout Europe, some in Africa, South America, which I'll talk about in a little bit, and Australia, Asia, so forth. So I've been, and I really enjoy as a citizen of the world the opportunity to meet people from all over the world, as well as to see how they live, the culture. I like going to grocery stores because it's kind of a kind of a commonality of and see how people, how they work and eat and so forth, and their culture and so forth. So traveling is been important to me throughout my life. My life changed a lot at age 53 when I was finally diagnosed as legally blind. I have retinitis pigmentosa, RP. My specific gene is RP1. And I have, in the last 10 years, well, at the time I was diagnosed at 53, I was already quite legally blind. I had been misdiagnosed by ophthalmologists in the past. But once I was diagnosed, I asked, when should I give up my driver's license? The answer was now. So I did within a week. And so that, quite changed my life. I continued to work for 5 more years and retired at 58, so 10 years ago. And during my life of travel, I used to drive, I took trains, I did everything but cruise. And I was very independent and did things kind of on my own or with my with my family, but always sort of in charge. Well, blindness change and legally blindness changed, as changed my life. And I started at when I retired in 2014 to take a cruise ship. And it really opened my eyes to a new world of how to get around the world, as Lindsay said, without while still having the same accommodations, the same sanctuary or refuge or home to come back to at the end of every day, and to a familiar world, especially one where there's so many people, so much of the staff is in the they're in the hospitality business of making your experience the best it can be. So I've cruised about a dozen times, and I'll talk about the specific cruise that I did this past winter, going to Antarctica, my last continent, via Patagonia from Santiago, Chile, down the coast to down the Chilean fjords, down to the Tierra del Fuego, the end of the world, as it's called, in Ushuaia, Argentina, and then going down for a couple of days to cruise around Antarctica, and then coming back through both the Falkland Islands and the east coast of Argentina up to Montevideo, Uruguay, and then to Buenos Aires. So that was a fascinating and wonderful cruise experience. I tend to go on longer cruises than because it's so hard to get there. Might as well do a lot while I'm there and see a lot. And I tend to go on smaller ships because they are easier to get around and fit what I'm looking for at this stage of my life. So what I enjoy a lot about cruise ships is, as Lindsay said, was when I get on the cruise ship, I beforehand I always study the deck plans, so I know where things are, where my cabin is, and I try and get a cabin near the rear elevator and stairwell so that I have an orientation to where I am once I get off of the elevator or walk up the stairs. Um, and I also study YouTube videos to get a feel for what the cruise ship is like, and particularly what the cabins look like. But once you get on the cruise ships aboard, they tend to have a lot of the administrative stuff handled in advance, including taking your own picture and uploading it. And so once you get aboard, I familiarize myself with the ship, and particularly with things that the average person doesn't do, like where are all the public bathrooms and what's their layout. um, as well as where the dining rooms are, the theater, and so forth. But what you'll find and why I enjoy a cruise ship is, as was said earlier, is you get to see and experience all these different locations around the world, but still at the end of the shore excursion or the day, you get back on the ship and it's kind of like coming home. It becomes your home for that period of time. And it becomes a place where in my case, the staff all knows me. You know, if you're walking around with a white cane, everyone's going to see you, and you just have to just get kind of I'm okay with that. I like that. I like to explain what life is like for folks who are visually impaired, and my life, and how my cane works, and I let kids play with it, and adults as well, to see how it works, and what it does for us. But when you talk, I also make lots of friends with the staff, the hospitality staff, the entertainment staff, because they can provide a lot of good tips and information, and just be a friendly face aboard. Some of the things that I enjoy when I'm on a cruise ship is, you have your cabin with a very, once you get it set up the way, with where everything is, it becomes very familiar, particularly where the light switches are, where the towels are, all that. And I also enjoy dining in the main dining room. I used to go to the buffet often, but I found that it's probably one of the more chaotic areas, because everyone's focused on getting their food, and people are coming at you from different angles. Since I have zero peripheral vision, and haven't had it for like 10 years, um, I tend to like the main dining room, where you have waiter service or waitress service, and you become friendly with the waiters and wait staff and the maitre d', and you have an experience where it's more relaxed, and they'll even, you can train them to tell you, like, where did they put the coffee, at what position on the clock, so to speak, in front of you that it is located. And fellow passengers will also help you if you ask. And I like to do that. It makes them feel useful and helpful, as well as providing information that you need, and ask people to, press the button on the elevator, if you need to, and so forth. So, um, some of the things that you can do on a cruise ship, and I've been on a variety of different cruise ships, is there are entertainment options. There's a theater. There are usually lectures that are interested. Some of them will be on your TV. But the entertainment is something that, it's hard in our normal lives to get to a theater at night, particularly. Um, since in my case, night blindness was the first thing that, I experienced in my life with RP. But you can go to the theater, you can go to the lectures, for those who are into it, the casino, some of them have casinos. They all have lots and lots of places to eat, get snacks, get a coffee. Coffee has become a huge thing on cruise ships, as they realize their passengers really enjoy it. So the ship I was last on has a place called Baristas, and there's coffee and snacks most of the day. And it's in this particular ship was complimentary. Um, and as we talked about Wi-Fi, uh, but it's a kind of a time to decompress. So I try not to stay on Wi-Fi too much, but it's a time to talk with people, because everyone's in a more relaxed atmosphere, where they're, especially when you're at sea. And there's just, you're all together there as a community for that period of time. I use the self-service laundrette, laundry aboard, so I don't take a ton of clothes with me. And I enjoy the experience of being in that community. And one of the other big things that for us with vision impairment is that almost every direction is forward or to the back of the ship. There's almost no diagonals, which are kind of the worst thing when people are coming at you from your, um, as they call the blind side, which is pretty much every side except straight ahead in my case. So everything you're going on usually fairly narrow corridors. So people are used to seeing you come at them with a white cane swinging in front of them, and they'll move over, and you can move over as well. Um, but it tends to be a very safe and environment. One of the things that I think of when I'm traveling is your senses are kind of like on super speed. You're exhilarated, but your mind is racing with all this new input it's getting of places and voices and languages and smells and all of that, and your eyes can get really tired and your brain can get really tired by processing, in my case, pretty crappy vision that's coming into the brain and is trying to figure out what the heck all that stuff is. And you need a time to let it rest. And when you're aboard ship, you're in a familiar world where, just like in your home, where where things are and kind of the pace of life. You kind of get into a rhythm of ship life, which is comforting in my case. And I use the opportunity to talk to people and learn about their culture, their beliefs, their world that they live in, because when I'm here in my home, I don't get that as much except electronically. So that is like 15 minutes worth of the highlights.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I was going to go into what my last cruise was like, just as an experience to whet your appetite. I flew in February to Santiago, Chile. It was cold here, very hot there. In the 30s in Celsius, and 90s in Fahrenheit. And I had the opportunity to walk around town. I used the cruise line, um, booked a hotel for me and had the bus to take me from Santiago Airport to a hotel. Because the room wasn't ready, I went and took a hop on, hop off bus around the city until the room was ready. And then after an overnight flight the night before, I kind of crashed till the next morning, where the cruise line took us to the port, which was on the coast, since Santiago's more inland. Um, Once boarding the ship, one of the things they have is a safety briefing, but almost all of that is done on your phone or electronically in advance, and you just have to go to your muster station and check in. Once aboard, I kind of got familiar with the ship and where everything is and checked things out, so that for the rest of the 20-day cruise, I'm kind of in my comfort zone. Once you unpack and get settled, I could start just relaxing into the cruise life. And we stopped in a couple of ports, and one of them I even got a chance on a shore excursion to go up and over the Andes mountains, which was something I never thought I would do. But I've been reading, and knowing a lot about the Andes, but got a chance to talk to the shore excursion guides, learn about their life. They usually share that as part of their talk on the bus. Um, but I got a chance to do some things and sample some of the food, and the smells, the what you all the what you hear, and what I could see. It's something that was a very memorable day. And then we cruised along the Chilean fjords, which were quite beautiful, to have mountains, snow-capped mountains right next to right next to sea level, which is where we were in our cruise ship, and then go down we're going along the Patagonian coast, the west coast, the Pacific coast, and then down to two ports along the southern tip of South America, including Ushuaia in Argentina, as well as, and I was able to take a little steam train along the Tierra del Fuego, the end of the highway that goes from Alaska all the way down to a parking lot at the end in the National Park of Tierra del Fuego in Argentina. And then had three after going across the Drake Passage, which turned out to be not as rough as at least we were lucky enough not to have a rough journey, but then had three spectacular days cruising along along the coast of Antarctica, the peninsula of Antarctica, and then came back through Stanley, the Falkland Islands, where I got to go up near very close to the penguins, as well as to experience their life in this remote South Atlantic island, and then onto the east coast of Argentina, and then up along to the big cities in Buenos Aires and Montevideo. And so even though I'm used to being on land, going around all these places, the shore excursions give you a taste of that, give you an experience of kind of what it's like in a short day or so. But it's something that provided me with the experience of being there and experiencing and getting a little taste of their life while still being able to have a home base on my cruise ship. So with that, I'll open it up for questions. The biggest thing I will say beforehand is take your white cane. It really opens all the doors, and if you don't have it, no one knows that you're visually impaired, and nobody really is going to probably see you ever again. For those who are hesitant about that, it really is critical. I actually take three of them with me. For different types of times and to show off the different types of canes that I have in my collection. But it's something that opens the doors. I do not have a guide dog. That they are allowed on cruise ships. It is complex because of the very country rules. So it takes a lot of planning to take a guide dog with you. But the white cane, it opens up all the doors, and it helps the staff to know and the fellow passengers know that you might not see them if you bump into them or whatever, and they give you a wider berth that way, as well as be very helpful. Generally, my experience is people all over the world, whether or not they speak your language or not, the white cane is relatively known throughout the world. And if it's not, I put my hands over my eyes and swing my cane and use sign language to explain to people what this thing is, and then let them try it, because I've had folks in Africa, in Maasai villages, all experience the cane because they don't see white canes that break down with like a tent pole. So I've spoken a long time, so let me open it up for questions if you have any.
First of all, I want to say that I love that you are taking the time to really help people experience it and ask questions to you. Like it's it's not for everyone to do something like this, but it's
Right.
definitely important that also other cultures and other countries get to know what a white cane is, what people with a visual impairment, what this is like, what they do, what it is for. So I think it's very crucial that you do this. That's
Yeah,
great.
thank you. Yeah, it's something I'd like being sort of an ambassador
Yeah.
for our community, given the fact that not as many of us get out into the world in some of these places that they don't see. They don't
Yeah,
see
and
us. So I'm trying to use my time with them to educate, particularly
yeah.
kids. Young,
Yeah.
kids are
They're
very curious.
curious. Yeah.
They
They're
will
always
ask their
ready to ask
parents
questions.
questions,
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Like they ask the questions that the adults are a little shy to ask,
right?
but everybody kind of wants to know the answer. And I love that you're also embracing working with the cane. It's a big step in the beginning, and that's also something that I always say is like, try and bring your cane, try to get used to your cane, embrace it, ask questions, and it will give you a lot of easier time to
Yeah. It
travel.
also gives you a lot of confidence and a lot of boost because people are admiring us being out in the world with the white cane. And particularly in my case, the last couple of cruises have been solo. So I'm going by myself and
Mm.
traveling because my wife never grew up traveling. She traveled with me for a lot, but since COVID, she'd rather not. Not because of COVID, but just because it's not enjoyable to her. So I'm still willing to do it. My next trip is even more adventurous. I'm flying to Cape Town next
Oh,
May and getting on
yeah.
a small cruise ship going up the West African coast all the way up to the Straits of Gibraltar and onto Barcelona. So
That's
that
also a
is
pretty big trip.
yeah, so I'm not doing a lot of cruising. Some people are cruising almost all the time. I've met
Yeah.
people who are one cruise after another. They go home after 3 or 4 straight cruises and then get right back on a cruise ship. I'm more like once a year, but
Yeah.
I do big, more expensive ones, but not that often, but ones to places that I'd like to go to that I haven't been to before and that that are interesting and a long cruise because if I'm going to fly halfway around the world,
Mm.
I don't want to fly right back again. I'd rather,
No,
do see as much as I can see while I'm there and then fly home. So,
exactly. Exactly. A question that I have is, how does it work with the excursions? Like, can you get assistance to go on excursions, or are you on your own? How does that work?
so the excursions that I usually do ones from the cruise ship. The one advantage they have is the ship will not leave if the excursion doesn't come back. If the excursion, is delayed, the ship isn't going to sail without
Oh
you
yeah,
because
that's a
it's
good
it's
thing.
kind of mandatory that
Yeah,
it's their excursion. They need, they're not going to leave people behind.
yeah.
So that's number one. But the second one is that I know what the plan is. I book them as soon as they become open on their website. And I do enough research in advance. I really love YouTube videos. There's YouTube videos about just about everything. And if you can find them, you can start to experience sort of what it's like, but not in depth, because you want to be open to the experience that
Hmm.
you have, but you get enough of the feel for it. But what happens is you meet usually in the theater that at a set time you get your pass, if you will, to get to the tour bus to go to wherever you're going. And I usually tell once you get on the bus, there is a host, a guide. And I tell the guide, I show them my white cane. I tell them what I can see, what I need. The biggest thing is, don't leave me behind. If there's a big stairwell, I'm going to take it slow.
Yeah.
People may, go faster than me, but I'm gonna make sure I don't trip and fall. So I'm very careful with that. So I make sure they know and they tend to then look after me. Um, and fellow travelers, I make friends with folks, and they will usually help me along. I try and stay near the guide if I can, but and they usually provide me with a seat up front in the bus, even though everybody kind of piles in first. They usually leave a couple of, if you will, disabled seats and put me there. So I'm near I need one of the first people off the bus. And so, that's what I do. I am able to get around on my own, but I'm open to the fact that they want to help me, and I may think I don't need help, but I might. So it's better to be safe than sorry, and so that's kind of what I do.
Great. Okay, that sounds wonderful. I don't know if anybody else has any questions right now for Steve. Otherwise, we will move on, and
Yeah.
I'm sure there will be more questions to come. I will announce our next speaker, which is Heather Horn. She is an independent travel agent with 1.5 years of experience in the industry. She is passionate about turning your travel dreams into reality for her clients. Having traveled over 15 countries and experienced different modes of travel, including plane, train, boat, and automobile, Heather has immersed herself in a variety of adventures to share her knowledge with the world. So I would say, Heather, you can introduce yourself as well and just let us know exactly what you do.
All right. So my name is Heather. I am a travel agent, and I really enjoyed listening to Steve. I feel like I have gained so much knowledge today. It was really awesome to hear his perspective from his actual adventures that he likes to go on, which is awesome, to see how that works for him. Um, so basically, as a travel agent, I do specialize in cruises. So I book a lot of people for cruises, and there are things that cruise lines do to accommodate you. And it seems like Steve has figured out all the tips and tricks of the world, and he knows exactly what he's doing, which is awesome. But it's always handy to use a travel agent as well if it's your first time, you're nervous, you haven't had that experience. Because someone like me could be your advocate because you need to let the cruise lines know ahead of time that you need accommodations. So that's definitely the biggest thing. The sooner you can contact them, the better. That way they can, get on board with what you need, helping you have access to anything that you do need. And there are some things that they offer. I have I'll go ahead and show this picture just so it'll be on your video. If it works,
It's
Yes,
working,
it
Heather. We
works.
can
Yeah.
see it.
sometimes it likes to reload on me, and I'm like, oh, these are just some things. Maybe it will let me present. Things happen when it's your turn.
Yeah. So
Oh
definitely
my.
let us know exactly what is on the slides for the people that have no vision. Oh, looks like you muted yourself.
Oh no. Okay, I'm back. Oh, too many things on my screen. Let me try to share again.
I understand.
Sorry. Okay, and I'm just going to skip to the slide about vision. Maybe.
Of course.
Sometimes Canva doesn't let you present full screen if you're in Zoom. So it might just want to click on the slide, and then as you go through each one, just explain what's on it.
Thanks. It worked the last time I tried this, but today's not my day apparently. Okay, so just some accommodations that a lot of cruise lines, and this is just like a broad thing. So each cruise line can be a little different. You'll definitely want to, if you're even just thinking about a cruise and you're not sure about their accommodations, that's something you'll want to check on. And my dog decided to join me. So, but for blind and low vision, some things they offer are braille signage. Those are available for, doorways, things that show directions, what room you're entering, that sort of thing. They have large print format is available for things like their daily newsletter, dining room menus, shore excursion info. So those are things you can request. When you go to the restaurants, like you mentioned, the main dining room, you sit down with the server, which that's my favorite as well. The buffet is madness, but you can have a menu that's a PDF file. So if you have some kind of like screen reading software or something to accommodate you on a device, you can have access to that and see that. And then, like you mentioned, service dogs are welcome on board, and there is a process to go through that. And it's quite a bit, but they have guidelines for that. So having a travel agent is very handy for that as well, just to help you get through the process, navigate all of that, so that way you have what you need for your trip to have the best time. But that's just a quick overview. And like with any accommodation, like I said, always contact them as soon as possible. I would recommend at least 60 days before your trip, sooner if you can, just to let them know, what you need, what you want, what they can do for you. That way you'll know exactly what to expect when you get there.
Yes, exactly. Also, to come back to the service dogs, the guide dogs, It's also going to be important that you have an official guide dog. So, and that also goes for planes right now. It used to be easier, but then the therapy dogs are came up, and it made it all a little bit more complicated. So it's also going to be important when you have a guide dog with you to make sure you have all the documentation that you need. Definitely have its passport with you as well, but also to prove that your dog has been trained by an official guide dog school. Okay. Thank you so much, Heather, to come on. If anybody has any questions for Heather, definitely let us know. She's here to help you with any questions you might have.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Also for the beautiful PowerPoint you made, or the Canva thing you made. That's wonderful. You can always send that to me, Heather, and then I can also post that, and people can also put it through their e-reader.
Okay.
I know that Laura also wanted to quickly come on and talk to us. So I don't know, Laura, if you are ready to do that.
Yeah. Yes, Lindsay. Hey, good morning.
Awesome. Good morning.
Laura Long. I've been here, gosh, in Georgia for the last 30 years. A little bit about me. I'm a retired special educator. So I've spent many years accommodating, helping our students accommodate for their, and I say different ability, not so much disability. So I also am a carrier female of the very rare eye disease called choroideremia. It is something that's impacted our son. He is on a fast path right now, losing vision. And so it is my mission to do all that I can to support him and this journey. One of the things I do know as this came about is we thought the best way we could help him was to help him get out in the world and see the world, hence the opening of Expedia Cruises here. So once you get travel in your blood, it kind of stays with you. As a military brat, as working formerly for a major airline, you do have that in your blood and you do want to continue to travel. But one thing I can say about travel is that it is really important for our mental health and for all of those things. And so a little bit about cruising that I could say, you guys have already really covered it well. The cruise lines do a great job accommodating. And one of the things I recently did was I took a trip which went to Istanbul. I did a cruise to Rome. I stayed in Rome 3 days and then flew to Athens and did a round trip Greece. And what I noticed was that stay in Rome, even for me as a sighted person, was far more difficult and stressful than the cruise. And I said to my husband, you know, cruising is just, you know, it's familiar. It's so much easier for all of us. So for those reasons, I really I advocate for our visually impaired community to get aboard a cruise, so much so that I have set up a group, and I'll share that with you, Lindsay, and send you the flyer. But cruising does offer the first thing the cruise line's going to do for my group. It's going September 15th next year. We're going to get on board. They're going to do an orientation tour. They're going to take us around and get us oriented. And then, you know, just like was said earlier, they do provide with notice the accessible features with the programming, the menus, all of that. And they will, you just have to fill out, I think it's some paperwork you have to fill out to let them know you're bringing aboard the guide dog and that you're requesting those services. They also have a qualified reader that they will assign as needed. So the familiarity of going to the same restaurant, of going in the same places is just the perfect mode of travel for the visual impairment community. And so we've been at this for about 8 years now. And this will be my first visual impairment cruise that we are taking. So I was listening carefully to those with the visual impairments who have traveled. It's something that, you know, I like the suggestion about the apps and the PDF file with the screen readers and all of that, and studying up on the deck plans is very helpful. But if I could provide you with that flyer and you could share it with your group at a later time, I would appreciate it, because we already have about, I want to say 9 cabins of visual impaired choroideremia patients, or excuse me, clients going. So I will share that back with you. But that's really all I wanted to share. There's not much that hasn't already been said. It's the best mode of travel for this, for visual impairment, I believe. And I believe travel is necessary for our mental health.
Yes, I completely agree. The flyer has already been on the group before, but I will repost it so that everybody knows exactly what you were talking about. I had
Perfect.
contact with Jason about it as well, so he shared it to the group. And
Excellent.
so people can actually always still join that group, because I thought it was you couldn't anymore.
No, you absolutely can. So the way
Okay.
the flyer, that was a little confusing, there is like early bird rates. So our corporate
Ah,
group media will set up group space well in advance, and those prices were really outstanding. But all 7,000 of consultants in our organization can book into that. And then I shared the group rates that I was able to set up, you know, recently. So the way cruise pricing works is the minute the itinerary comes out, it's at its lowest rate. And then over time on the way to the sailing, the pricing will rise. And so a lot of times people are misinformed, thinking they can get a last minute cruise and it'll be a great deal. And what they don't understand is that they are getting the highest possible price because of supply and demand.
yeah.
So the supply is, you know, what it is, and the demand is still so strong that the rates really are not going to come down. So yeah.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, okay. No, that was a little bit confusing. I thought it was already over there.
Not at
So,
all. Yeah,
okay,
we're
that's
still,
good. Yeah, I love that. All right. I don't know if anybody has any questions for Laura or for Heather about booking a cruise. I will make sure for both of you that people are able to reach you. I also see that Heather goes live every week on her profile, on her Facebook profile, and the link has been put here also in the chat below. But I will make sure once everything is posted on your YouTube and on Facebook that all the links are there, so everybody can revisit if they want to. Another question for you, Laura. Are there currently guide dogs coming along on the trip?
yes, we do have guide dogs, I believe 3 so far coming. And I'm also meeting with their accessibility department to work on, you know, what were, you know, the activities on board the ship. It is a short sailing on the brand new Utopia, so it's not a long sailing, but we're still going to meet with accessibility and see what things and activities that can be recommended. And as for shore excursions, I did want to comment on that. So the cruise lines do like to say they're the only ones guaranteed to get the clients back to the ship. The reason I mentioned, we work with a group called Shore Excursions Group. They both carry the guarantee. I mean, they will fly you to the next destination if they have to. And the reason I mentioned them is because I think they will serve our community better. They are smaller groups. And so, for example, you know, you might have 12 people in your group as opposed to 200 on a coach bus. So there is that option as well, both guaranteed to get you back. And you know, excursions are, you know, can be a little tricky. You just really want to read, or one thing that hasn't been mentioned, I mean, it sounds like a lot of folks in our community like to do research, and that's wonderful. But just so people know, to work with a travel advisor, the supplier already has their whatever built into that cost. So when you're not working with them, you're really you're paying for something you're not getting. And so you really should utilize that service and let the agents, because it does not cost anything additional to use an advisor. And it just would help a lot, since it's already built into the cost of the trip.
Yes, it's definitely good that you add that. We have a couple of advisors and agents here with us. I think Brittany is also one of our agents that has the most experience. I don't know if you want to add anything to what has already been said.
Sure. Hi, by the way, my name is Brittany. I've been a travel agent since 2020. Very wild time to start a travel agent business, but it's been really interesting. And while I don't have specific experience booking as much cruises, I just want to be super transparent about that. That is more Heather's specialty. I do want to say that there are so many opportunities out there and they're growing. So my hope was really just to share some articles for you to read later. So feel free to either copy and paste them, or when you save the chat, you have them. I just found them to be very inspiring. Is it okay if I share my screen for a second, Lindsay? Yeah? Okay, great. So I'm going to share just so you can see a couple of them here. So I was just really inspired as kind of looking through these stories myself, because even though I actually do wear glasses, but I don't have legal blindness. I just like to understand travelers better. I think that's really important for us as travel agents, because we only know from our personal experience or from what people say or what we read, right? And so I'm always trying to think, what do people need? So I think honestly, every travel agent should be coming to more events like this, just as a little personal value thing. But I just wanted to share, I found this very inspiring. This article is titled, in case you're not seeing it, "Accentuating the Positive and Focusing on Unexpected Advantages, My Year as a Disability Role Model." And this person talks about visiting the British Antarctic Territory and how like transformative and inspiring that was. So I definitely just want to share that article. I'll share a couple in the chat here, but that one is a really good read. I also really loved this one. Blind Hong Kong runner becomes the first visually impaired person to complete the Antarctic Challenge. The reason I focused so much in Antarctica was, and I shared this in the chat, but in case you didn't see that, my first cruise was to Antarctica, which I know is very odd. Usually people go to the Caribbean first. But I was very worried about a couple of things. And while it's not directly related, I think it could help just knowing that you're not alone. The first thing being, I wear glasses and I need my glasses to drive. I need them to really do anything. I was also there as a content creator. And so I knew that my job was to get so many videos, so many photos. And I was concerned about going on these zodiacs. A zodiac is this type of raft, and you have to get down into it, and it's kind of hard to explain without showing you, but basically you take a few steps down into this raft. You kind of have to balance yourself. Usually you have someone holding your arms and your shoulders. It's not that difficult usually, but I also have some mobility issues. So that was a challenge a little bit initially. And I had my gear with me and my phone, and I was so scared of losing my glasses, because I remember thinking, if my glasses fall into the water, into this freezing water, that is it. I'm not getting them back, right? And then I can't see anything for the rest of the experience. So I do think that there's a lot of anxiety and mindset around traveling with these different things. And I think what Steve already shared was so beautiful about how he's just decided, like, this is my life. I'm open to talking about my life. I'm open to answering questions. And I think that mindset really does help you to enjoy the experience more, right? This other article I'm going to share in the chat is about a Guinness World Record, which they're pretty new. This was just in 2012. So that just shows how much travel has really changed and evolved in the past 12 years, that this is becoming more normal, which is a great thing. So that was really inspiring to me as well. And for time's sake, I'm just going to share a few more of these in the chat. Sorry to spam the chat, but just that way you have them, especially if you've been thinking about going to Antarctica. And these writers, they have disabilities and they have impairments. And I think it's really good to hear from people who they focus on that, right? So I'm just sharing that in the chat just for you to read through, because sometimes I feel like you just need to see it and hear it from different people to feel emboldened to go do it. But part of it really is mindset too. So I hope that you hear that and that you're encouraged to do it, because I can tell you, you can watch all of the YouTube videos, you can listen to all of the podcasts, you can read all the articles, and you still should. Absolutely, you should. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to face the fear part of it. And that is going to be the biggest, honestly, I would think the biggest hurdle for any traveler, no matter what is the barrier that you're facing. I just got to the point where I remember thinking, I was like, okay, I am overweight. I am in a larger body. How am I going to get in and out of this one landing we had, where I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to clear that. And I looked at the expedition leader, and you don't want to admit this, obviously, in front of other people, because you have 8 other people on the raft with you. And I just kind of looked at him like, can I go last, please? And so that's another thing you can do too. If you want some discretion and you don't want to maybe make things known to other people, you can just kind of be discreet about it. And I just said, hey, do you mind helping me up? And he was happy to do it. You know, it was not even a second thought. So I think sometimes we build these things up in our mind about, this is going to be so stressful. It's really going to be okay, right? Like everything is going to be okay. And I went and I had a great time. And so I just hope that every traveler feels that empowered and encouraged. That's really all I have to say. Just a little bit of a pep talk. Yeah, but let me know if you have any questions about that. If you have questions about cruising though, I'm just going to send you to Heather, because she knows more than me.
Yes, does anybody have any questions? Now is definitely a good time. I thank you so much, first of all, to share all these articles. I really love it. I'm also going to check the ones that I haven't seen yet. And I love the fact that you bring up mindset again. That is also something that we work on a lot during coaching sessions, because that is really it. Like, it's really taking that first step. And if it doesn't have to be a cruise to Antarctica, right? Like, it, you first start with something small, with doing a trip on your own, maybe just visiting another city, maybe just visiting a museum that you haven't been to, that's nice and accessible. Like, it's first taking these small steps. As you go, you gain a little bit more confidence every time. And this is also something that we cover a lot in the ebook that I have for you guys. So when you're going to start checking that out, there are some challenges in there as well, but also some questions for yourself to answer. And you're also going to notice that definitely around us, let's say also our environment, but also from ourselves, there are a lot of limited beliefs that we have. It's like, oh, I can't do this because of that. Or people might try and put some fear into you as well. It's like, oh, are you sure you want to go on this cruise all by yourself? And people do that with me as well. I'm also a solo traveler. My very first trip was to Cuba when I was 22 years old, and everybody was kind of freaking out. They were sure I was never to return. Um, but yeah, it's pushing through that fear. And once you've done it, and it doesn't always go perfect, but it is because when things don't go perfect and you notice that you can handle it, you can, you can trust on yourself to handle certain situations, but you can also trust on other people to help you in certain situations, that everything is going to be okay. And you're going to have good stories to tell when you come back home, and you're going to gain more confidence. And I think, yeah, I really think that's a big one. But also, that's why I love to talk about cruises right now, is I feel like taking a cruise is a smaller step. It's a smaller step than, for instance, do a backpacking trip through Europe, right? We have some people in the community that are backpacking right now. We talked about that on the solo travel Tuesday that we had 2 months ago. But it doesn't have to be this big step. Maybe going on a cruise, let's say with Laura, with other people with a visual impairment, that is the best first step that you can take. You have other people that are in the same situation. You can talk about it. You can bond about it. They will definitely be able to teach you a couple of skills, how to go around the ship, how to do these excursions. So those are really good things to start with. But the main thing is start doing it. Start small. Make sure that you're still a little bit comfortable with what you do, know your own abilities, and yeah, and just start doing it. I will make sure that also all the articles, that everything we talked about today, that I post this. I don't know if there's anybody else that would like to add something. I know, Philip, you've also done some cruises. I don't know if there's anything you would love to say about it, or anybody else
Well,
has questions or stories. Please share.
actually, we are going on a cruise next month, and this will be my first time cruising with vision loss. I've been on a
Oh,
cruise
yeah.
before when I was sighted, but I do have a question for your speakers. We're traveling to Alaska next month, and I'm part of a group of about 50 cruisers that are, have form of vision loss or another. And we are sailing on Royal Caribbean. And one thing I was very happy to hear was that they have hired a third party to do audio description for their live performances. And I was wondering from your speakers if they've experienced that, or if they know if that is becoming the norm, or if Royal Caribbean is doing it just for us because, we're a group of 50 cruisers that, can't see. So I was just wondering if this is something that's becoming the norm, or has anybody experienced it?
So
This is
this is
Steve.
Laura. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Ed.
Uh,
I was just gonna say it depends on the size of the group. So when the group gets larger, there are extra credits called tour conductor credits that they use to do things for the group. So for example, if I'm a group of 50 and I might want to set up a cocktail party, I can use those funds for that. Or maybe I want to use those funds to hire an audio reader. But now I do know that Royal has qualified readers. They will assign. We just have to let them know we need it. So whether or not they use some of that tour conductor credit to add some extra services, it is possible. And that will grow as the group gets larger. So.
Yeah, that's perfect. This is Steve Cohen again. I've never experienced it. Also, I've never traveled on Royal Caribbean. But what I've found is that a lot of the performances obviously have dance, but they also have a lot of singing, which you could, hear. I also love the lectures. Some of them again have visuals, but you could talk to the lecturers afterwards, and have them explain. They'd love to have interested passengers, at least the ones I've been with, who are interested in what they have to say and maybe can't see the PowerPoint slides that they showed, but to describe it afterwards. But I've not had anything during the performance or the lecture. But the also is with all the new technology with your phone, and there are lots of opportunities to use the electronic things that, and a lot of the cruise lines now have apps where you can look at things like menus and things on your phone, which could then use screen readers, etc., to help you in advance, as well as just talking to people. If in doubt, ask.
Okay,
Yes,
great. Thanks.
Yeah,
thank
have a
you so
wonderful
much.
time, Philip.
I plan to. We plan
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
imagine. That's a nice group also, like 50 people. That's gonna be a lot of fun. I've also heard about the apps that the cruises have, and apparently there's also a feature on this app where you can just push, I'm hungry now, and then it gives you what restaurant is open at that moment and what you can get there. So it's always a good moment to use that as well. You can't stay hungry, that's for sure.
Yeah, and
Lindsay,
they usually have 24-hour room service if you're really desperate. But there are usually coffee bars with snacks open a lot during the day, some of them 24 hours a day,
Oh,
depending on the cruise ship. So, there's they definitely, have lots of food options is the one thing you can pretty much guarantee.
that's pretty dangerous.
And
Yeah.
usually a casual pizza or burgers, hot dogs thing in the afternoon near the pool is kind of a traditional, the casual dining as opposed to the buffet or the main dining room.
Um, Lindsay, the one thing I was going to say, especially in regards to Alaska, one cruise line that this community might find very helpful is Princess, because they have what's called their medallion. And their medallion is a piece of technology that you wear around your neck. You could be sitting by the pool and you go into your app, or you go on there and you order a cocktail, and they know where you are based on your medallion, and they deliver it to you. You can order from your room and they deliver it to you. They find you by way of that app. And the other thing, or by way of that medallion, the other thing is you can find everyone in your party with that medallion across the ship. So that's a really neat feature. If anybody is going to Alaska, Princess is one of the premier brands there, and they have that feature, which I think would be very helpful.
That is very helpful. Yeah, that's so good. Also to find other people in your party, that's also really good, because I can assume you don't constantly want to be on your phone as well. Like I know WhatsApp, for instance, has this location kind of thing that you can use. But of course not to receive your drink, but to find other people of your party as well. But that's really good. And that was Princess, you said on?
Yeah, Princess. The
Yeah.
ships are all outfitted with the medallions now. And when they first rolled it out, they had a lot of technology problems, but they have since ironed all that out, and they're working great.
That's good. Yeah, that's also something when you are working together with a travel agent or a travel advisor, there are many different cruise lines. Like one is good in certain areas and another one is much better in that. So it's also important to kind of let your travel agent or your travel advisor know what is important for you. Like for instance, if you're traveling with a guide dog, you kind of want to have a good relieving area, for instance, for this dog. Definitely if you're there for a couple of days. So I assume also on one cruise airline, they're gonna have a better relieving area. Another cruise line, they will have these medallions. Some will have a better accessible app. So definitely if you work together with a travel agent, travel advisor that is specialized in cruises or specialized in accessible cruises, then you can also tell them, okay, this is what I need. This is what I'm looking for this cruise. So definitely, yes, take advantage of that.
Yeah, that's a good point. All the brands do have their own niche. For example, Celebrity is within the Royal Caribbean family, but they cater more to adults. Now, it's not that children cannot be there, but they don't have all of the amenities for children, and they really cater to adults. So if you don't want to be around, for example, a lot of children, that would be a brand for you to look at.
Yeah, that's a good one, because it can be quite overwhelming if you don't have children of your own and you have to focus on getting to places, you want to wind down, and then there's a lot of entertainment for children. Yeah, for some people it can get quite
Yeah.
overwhelming as well. Yes, yes, for sure. I was also wondering, so you have different restaurants on these cruises. You also have a buffet. For people that are visually impaired and they do want to take the buffet option, is there a way that they can get assistance there as well?
Yeah, this is
Absolutely.
Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And that the staff there, they're a lot of times, just standing around waiting for something to do, if you will. And I introduce myself, I let them know. The times I use the buffet is if I have an early morning shore excursion and don't have an hour, to go to the main dining room. I go there or to the coffee area first. Or they usually have coffee and snacks in a couple places at 6 o'clock in the morning. But the buffet is usually 6:30 to 10 or so. And if since there's not a lot of, pretty much what's going to be offered at breakfast. I usually can tell them what I want, have them deliver it to me, unless it's early enough in the morning where there's not a lot of people to bump into.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. That's good too. Because, definitely definitely when you're also traveling with other people, when you're traveling by yourself, you completely do what you want. But when you're traveling with a family, with other people, you still have to kind of make sure that everybody's happy in that party. And then when you are visually impaired, you don't want to constantly have to rely on your partner to help you with things. So that's
Yeah.
also good that they provide that.
Yeah,
And
not only that is even, with buffet, it's both getting the food and getting a table. And if you're
yeah,
with someone else, where did they go?
yeah.
Or if I'm first to sit down, can they find me? Of course, I can hold up my cane and that kind of, get some attention to them. But, there's a little bit more stress, as you say, to coordinate.
Yeah. Yes, for
You
sure.
know, one thing that Mary and I started using recently, especially like at restaurant venues,
Yep.
is as an example, we get to our table, we get help to our table, no problem. But one of the biggest problems that we experience is trying to get help and not being able to see where our server is. It makes it difficult. So one thing we recently started implementing was when we eat out, is we purchased these lighted bracelets that you can turn
Oh,
on and off. And many times servers are very helpful. They keep coming to our table and asking if we need anything,
yeah.
even though we don't need any. So as a courtesy to them and a courtesy to ourselves, as we decided to buy these, like I said, lighted wristbands. And we tell our server, don't worry too much about us. If we need you to help us out, just look for our bracelet flashing and you can come on over. Because let's face it, they're also busy attending to other diners and everything like that. So we don't want to be a burden having to come over every 2 minutes to check up on us. That's what we decided to do. So very likely in our group, that's what I'm going to recommend, that we do the same thing for the rest of the group, is get those lighted wristbands in case they need help. They can just flip a switch and we can notify the Royal Caribbean staff that when they see that, it's a person who is in need of help and is not able to see. That is one thing that we have found very helpful and something we would recommend.
That is so smart.
Yeah.
That is
Cool.
great.
It's the first
Never
time I
heard of
hear
that.
of that. That's really smart. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Of course,
Where do you get them?
I bought them on Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're quite simple to use. It's got a little push button, very easy to find. The ones that we bought are the ones that what they call the slap wrist. You just slap it on your wrist and it wraps itself around you,
Yeah.
and it stays in place. And when we need help at a restaurant, we just push the button and it flashes. And the server already knows that they need our help, so we don't have to worry about being forgotten or having to have them come over to our table repeatedly, or the worst part of all, not being able to know where our server is.
Also, yeah. Just have to make sure that you know when it's on and when it's not, right? If it's is it the push button or is it like a slide?
It's a push button. It works okay for us when I'm around because I can still distinguish light
Yeah.
and dark, so I can see it flashing. Mary, of course, she's fully blind, so she's not able to. So yeah, that's one of the things that we recommend. I would also recommend, if person has complete vision loss, is to see if they have a haptic one that not only
Yeah.
flashes but vibrates as it's flashing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Or I'm thinking if you would have like a slide button, then on one side you can kind of put a little tactile and then okay, this side is on. You could do that as well.
Yeah, that could work, but believe me, it has been much helpful in
Oh,
not bothering and not being forgotten.
that's so good. Yeah, that's so good. That's a good idea. I love it.
Mhm.
I was also wondering, Laura, so with the medallions that you were talking about, does that come with an app? Could you then also order via an
Yeah.
app?
Well, it's set up through Princess. Princess has an app. And so you order the medallion, it comes to your home before you leave. So
Okay.
you have this medallion. It can be worn as on your wrist, it can be worn around your neck. And so you have this medallion with your name on it. It's sort of attractive, you know, it just looks like something that you're wearing, and they send it ahead of time. And if for some reason you don't get it ahead of time, you will get it at the port when you do your final check-in. But anything you can do in advance, obviously, and that's what I'm hearing people say, is the planning, the advance work, all of that is important. That's where your travel advisor comes in, because they do all of that for you. Why not make it easy for yourself? Unless you love doing all these things, I understand, but they will do all of that, and it'll come to you, and you just show up at the port with your medallion.
All right, that's good.
Yeah.
And then another question I'm also thinking about, when people have to fly in, so they fly into the airport, and then from the airport they have to get to the port to board the cruise ship. Is that also something that they provide assistance with, or you just find your own taxi or Uber?
Yes. We take that and compare the cost the cruise line is charging for transfers, and we compare that to what a typical Uber would be. Now, if it's easy, usually just to add on the cruise line transfer, because when folks get in destination, many times they run into Wi-Fi issues, and they're not able to order that, you know, Lyft or Uber. So these are all things we take into consideration on behalf of our clients, and help with the transfer, because the whole idea is for it to be, you know, door to door. Yeah.
Yeah, I think because that's also definitely a stress point for a lot of people. They get to the airport, it's already stressful to get there, and then how do you get from the airport to the port?
Exactly.
Yeah, the other thing I recommend is always book one night in advance, because if your flight's delayed, if your
Yes.
baggage doesn't
Yes.
arrive,
Definitely.
you are not super stressed by that experience of am I going to miss the ship? Are my bags going to miss the ship?
Also,
And if you go a day early, settle in, particularly if you're in a new time zone, you know, and have a good night's sleep, so you could start the cruise fresh rather than bedraggled or, you know, stressed out or whatever.
Steve, you reminded me of something, and that is, in our business here, being here 8 years, we see people over packing all the time. And so my recommendation is to not bog yourself down with over a baggage. One bag per person, you know, roll your clothes, they will fit. And so the other thing I recommend, which I just went to a travel wedding shower this weekend. And so one of the things we always like to purchase are the Apple AirTags. These will go in your bag and be able to track it if you end up checking it. And they work very well, and I recommend that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And most of the cruise lines have self-service laundrettes, 3 or 4 washers and dryers. Some of them charge for it, some of them are free, but it's very worth it. I usually do laundry every 4th day, because so I don't have to pack a lot. On my last trip, I went from very hot in Santiago, Chile, down to Antarctica, where it was freezing, and then back up again. So I had all kinds of different clothes, but I just took a couple of each and you know, kept doing laundry. So, you know, it's and it's sort of a social thing if you're into that, to sit in the laundry room or to go back and forth. And so anyway, that's just my technique.
yes, definitely. Like, I am a backpacker myself, and I always joke about, like, you actually have exactly the same bag for a week or for 3 months. Like, just have the same amount of clothes, you just wash them, you don't literally bring anything more. Unless, of course, like what you say, Steve, like one point you gotta be super hot and you need different clothes than when you're in Antarctica. But other than that, like, pack light. It's going to make your life so much easier. For some people, a backpack is easier. For other people, a trolley is easier. One thing I also say to new travelers is whatever luggage you decide on, go and walk with it first. Before you actually take it on the trip, go and walk with it first, just up and down your street with your cane, with everything that you're going to take, to kind of decide if this is comfortable enough for you. Because you will be hauling your luggage no matter what. Like, there will be a point where you have to kind of haul it back and forth, and you want to be comfortable because you're also carrying your cane with it, and you want to have that freedom of using it the way you're supposed to.
I have a question if there's time.
Of course.
Is there a cruise line that's more accommodating to visually impaired people than others?
Well, I don't know if anyone else wants to comment. I'd be happy to.
Go ahead.
I feel like the Royal Caribbean brand, Royal Celebrity, maybe because they started out with the Autism at Sea program. And so they're very strong in the accessibility areas. I have not checked the others or checked in with their accessibility departments, but I just know that because of Royal's Autism at Sea programs they have and how successful they've been, and in talking with their accessibility department, I feel like they lead the way, as they have in cruising. They led the way all the way through COVID. They were always the top leaders out of all the brands. So I would say probably the Celebrity and Royal Caribbean brands.
That's fine. I mean, I have not experienced a lot of accessibility things. I've not taken Royal Caribbean. I've done Cunard, Princess, Viking, Oceania, which is my kind of go-to one, and Paul
Yeah.
Gauguin, the Paul Gauguin French Polynesia. So the one other tip I would throw in is for the more adventurous type cruising where you're going to do things like Antarctica and getting or Galapagos where you're in and out of zodiacs, as was mentioned earlier. Doing those types of things earlier in your life is better because your vision and mobility may decrease over time, and do things, travel and see things while you still can have the maximum, because we tend to have debilitating diseases, and I'm very much a believer in doing as much early. Even when I was traveling for business and I was fully sighted, or at least I thought I was, I always took extra days to see where I was. And a lot of times I was able to bring family members and pay for them, but, make it a longer experience, because I might never be back to India or wherever. And,
Exactly.
I enjoyed going to the Taj Mahal and things that weren't part of the business agenda, but I did them anyway.
That's so good. I just want to put a big warning there. Once you start traveling, it is highly addictive.
Yeah.
I think everybody here can kind of aim on that. So once you start doing it, and like I said before, you usually start small, start with something easy, maybe have a group travel, a cruise, a retreat, something that's easy, that is fun, and then from there on you can start building up more. You're going to want more anyway. So that is something that will happen. Another thing that Brittany also mentions, and I definitely stand by that as well, is getting a travel insurance. So even if it is for a short trip, even if it's a trip in your own country or your state, it's always good to have travel insurance. I think also, at least here in Europe, with your Visa card, you also have certain insurances. So you have to check into that as well, that you don't overinsure. That's also not necessary. And then
So,
also, yes.
oh, when you're finished, I wanted
Oh
to make
yeah.
some
So yeah, so
insurance.
check first with your Visa card, or if you have anything like that, what is in that plan, and then after that you can kind of go and find your travel insurance as well. Go ahead, Laura.
I was just going to say, insurance is confusing to a lot of people. And I think it's important to point out that the cruise lines, when they insure, they use companies like Aon and those types of companies. When you go with someone like we work with a company called TravelX. So when they insure, they're going to give cash back. So this is a very important distinction because when you get insurance, and you see the rate is a little bit higher, typically those are on the ones that are going to be cash back. The cruise lines that offer insurance through Aon, they're going to give a voucher back. So they're going to save you money by giving that voucher back, but you really need to understand what you're buying. The second point is that the cruise lines have a pre-existing waiver, and that waiver requires you to purchase that insurance within 14 days of booking your trip. So if you don't purchase within those 14 days, they are going to do a pre-existing look back instead of having that pre-existing conditions waiver. So that's really important. But the most important thing is, yes, don't leave home without it. I could tell you stories within our agency of things that have happened. We had a client in Bali who had a monkey bite. They thought it was rabid. The clinic wanted $6,000 or $8,000 in their hand before they would treat her for rabies.
Yeah.
We've had other situations where the client was in Jackson Hole skiing, broke their back, had to be medevac back to the US. We've had our own consultant who was in Rome, who was traveling, fell and broke her pelvis, ended up in a hospital in Rome for 2 weeks. Her husband in a hotel for 2 weeks, had to be medevaced back. That would have been at least, I don't know, $100,000 to go through all of that. So insurance is not just to protect your actual investment, it's to protect what can happen to you while on that trip.
Yes, thank you for elaborating that. We are heading towards the end of this event. I don't know if there is anybody who would love to share something with the group. Now is the time to do so.
Yeah, I actually have a quick question. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I have a gyrate atrophy and no peripheral vision whatsoever and have night blindness. And I'm 38, so I still think I'm fairly young. And I would love to travel, but I've been scared all my life of traveling alone, especially for the night blindness part. You know, someone has to hold my hand and, you know, tell me there's a step up, step down. And I've never used a cane before. You know, of course, it's like, nah, this is not cool. But, you know, when I've listened to everything that's been said, I'm like, huh, it does make sense. So for someone in my situation, taking a cruise by myself, you know, because at first, you know, when you're younger, you have your friends to go with, but now we've all gotten older, they have their families, and I'm like, no, I'm by myself.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give me on where to start on?
Yeah. So this is Steve Cohen. So I have the same, I'm older, but I have the same issues with night blindness. I have none. You know, I have total night blindness, and no peripheral vision. The good thing about a cruise is it's well lighted inside the ship. So no matter what time of day or night it is, the hallways are lighted. If there are steps, you know, there are big handrails. There tends to be huge wide staircases because they're for evacuation and just to do the amount of people that are aboard. So you usually learn where they are, and you know, I do think you really need to use a cane while aboard to tell people that you're visually impaired, and two, to find downstairs are the worst ones where you don't want to, you know, start tumbling down the stairs by finding them with the cane. So even if you're self-conscious in your vicinity where you are, get a cane and get comfortable with it. Ideally, get trained on it. And a cruise is kind of an ideal time to use it because nobody knows you. You know that people are looking at you, but my view is that most people are looking at you, admiring the fact that you're out in the world with a cane and with your visual impairment. So from a confidence standpoint, you know, it's a confidence builder. People will talk to you about it. And you know, be open is my advice anyway. But a cruise is, and rarely are you getting aboard at night. And if you are, it's usually well lit. And you follow the people in front of you and you get back aboard, and then there are lights, good lighting pretty much everywhere. So I'd say go do it. Try it with a cruise. It's
All right,
actually
thank you.
easier than going to hotels in strange cities because of the lighting and the fact that the decks tend not to have stairs. There rarely are there stairs just for, okay. I've had some ships in the shop area have a couple stairs here or there, but I also walk slowly is the other thing, so that if I do hit one, I don't go face first.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you so much,
If
Steve. I also
you.
feel I feel for you, Gigi, because I know starting with a cane, taking that first step is a really tough one because you have to overcome a lot of confident issues with it. And I would advise you to kind of just, take one training. Take one training with a cane. That doesn't mean that you have to use it all the time, but just get a feel of it. Maybe you would like it even more than you think right now. And I would definitely advise you to get some training, not just get a cane and like go with it. Because I've noticed that a lot of people, when they just walk with a cane, they didn't get much training. You might as well not have one. So
Right.
just get a little bit of training, just for the fun of it. That doesn't mean you have to make any big decisions yet, but give it a try. And exactly what Steve just said, the cruise might be the perfect moment. Nobody knows you're there. You can start figuring things out. Everything stays the same. Your room stays the same. The restaurants is at the same spot. You can even, in the restaurant, you can even try and always use the same table. It's often going to be the same waiters there as well, so they will start noticing you after a while. And then maybe also good, like what Steve said before, is the room that you book. Maybe you want to book a room that is either close to a restaurant or like on the main floor, depending on which cruise line you go with, so that it's easier accessible for you as well.
One other
one thing,
point. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. One thing I'd recommend is definitely get the certified training for cane. I would recommend going to Leader Dogs for the Blind. They have a 1-week course. It's at no cost. They'll, pay for your travel expenses to and from, all your meals, your accommodations and everything. They're all on campus. And I don't know if anything changed before COVID or not, but before COVID, they would fly people from all over the world to come in for the training. So that might be one thing that you might want to look into, because the first step, and not many people with vision loss will I think disagree with me, is the very first step when you experience vision loss is to start using your cane and take it from there. Your world will open up for you. Your independence is going to be fantastic. And I really, really would suggest taking training for a cane before anything.
Yeah. Gigi, where are you located? Where's your home country?
I am in Frisco, Texas.
Okay.
Oh, so am I. I'm in Texas also. So it would work great for you if you did reach out to Leader Dogs for the Blind. They'll take care of you very well. So I really, really would recommend
Can you put
it.
that on the chat, please?
I'm afraid I have
I will do
difficulty
that
using the
for you.
chat.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
Okay, if someone would. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
good.
just to give you a quick one, is leaderdog.org.
Oh, okay, got it. Leaderdog.org. Okay.
And one other suggestion is, if you're traveling by yourself, but all the cruise ships I've ever been on have a session, especially early in the cruise, for what's called solo and single travelers. Sometimes they host it with a member of the staff. Sometimes it's just a room or a bar where you get together at a certain time, but it's people who are traveling who don't have someone else traveling with them. In my case, I'm a solo, not a single, but you know, you get to meet other people who are in like circumstances who are looking for people to get together to have dinner with, or to meet with, you know, or it's essentially a set of friends of people who aren't with a spouse or significant other, and that it enables you to build a little network early on in the cruise. And some cruise lines have multiple events and dinners and things, and free drinks and things like that for people in that group. So it's very helpful to get a network going.
All right, thank you all so much. When I do my first trip, I owe it all to you.
Well, thank you. Well, to Lindsay.
That's so
And
good. And definitely also check out the ebook that I created. That might also help you a little bit to make those first steps.
Yes.
And I also love that you said that your friends are now doing other things, they're having other interests, but exactly what you said is that it doesn't mean that you have to wait for someone to do something. You can just
Right.
you can create your own life. You don't, if you're waiting for someone to do something, you might be missing out. You will be missing out.
Absolutely.
All right. Does anybody else have questions? Want to share something? The stage is yours. Go ahead. All right. Good. Well, I see that Francisco would really love to have something in Spanish as well, and that is something that might happen in the future, but therefore I need to learn some Spanish a lot better than I do right now. But definitely, I would like to thank everyone for being here. Also, all our speakers, people that ask questions, everybody for showing up. You guys really make these events worthwhile. And I'm so happy to start seeing familiar faces coming back as well. So that really excites me. And also seeing new people coming on. If you're enjoying these events, tell friends and family about it so that they can come and join us as well. If you're having certain subjects that you would like to see on these events, you might say, okay, I want to learn a little bit more about traveling in Europe or anything else. If you have any suggestions, you can always let me know and I will check if I can provide that for you. Our next travel event will be about budget traveling. So it is definitely something for now, where everything is getting a little bit more expensive. It's getting harder to travel sometimes because of budget issues. So our next travel event, which will be on the 3rd of September, we will be talking about how you can travel cheaper, more budget-wise, but also how you can budget to be able to save up for traveling. And I am sure this will also be a very interesting talk to come on. So I would like to thank you all for being here on this travel event, and also for people that are watching us afterwards. And I will provide all the links, everything we talked about, in the description of this video. All right. Thank you, everyone. And I hope I will see you next month. Bye-bye.